Hello, this is the third one I'm doing on taking notes from this book from Sarah Hendrickx, which is the first one I read after being diagnosed in 2022. It's just taken me a long time to get it together, but I've done already 2 videos, and I was going to look at the notes she made, she did notes I made from the book about, so this part is mainly going to be about social understanding and communication. And so this was a quote from one woman. I think this was a woman that she interviewed for the book, who said, "My teams were full of 'what you fucking looking at' by other girls." This was incredibly confusing and frightening to me. Obviously something in my facial expression was upsetting them, but I really don't know what. I mean, I had this a lot, you know, people would stare at me and I would stare back, or I would stare at people and people would be uncomfortable and probably didn't know I was staring. You know, they say about eye contact, but I used to maybe stare at people from afar, I don't know. So she says, for many children with ASD, free playtime is the hardest of all to manage, and I can very much relate to that. She goes on to say, it's necessary to remember that the girl with ASD may not appear to have any difficulties. She may be the ideal child, helpful and polite, but as she gets older and additional demands are made of her, both socially and educationally, the mask may start to slip. I'm sure many of us can relate to that. It has been shown that increased demands in both of these areas contribute to increased anxiety in girls with ASD. And that was reported by Stewart, 2012. An important thing to note is that girls with ASD want to do well, comply, and not get into trouble. And she goes on to talk about break times and social interaction. From many children with ASD, break time is the most difficult part of the school day. Oh God, tell me about it. That really. The structure of the lessons is gone and the entire population of the school is released into the playground. Suddenly, social abilities reign supreme and an understanding of the complexities of relationships, negotiation and rules of play is required. It would be fair to say that our girl with ASD may well return to the classroom after a break more exhausted than when she left it. I mean, I just remember how I hated when I moved schools when I was 7. I just remember 2 long terms being in the playground, just mainly on my own, really. I mean, by the second year of the juniors, I'd got a best friend, but before that, it was hellish. It was a nightmare. I mean, I didn't think of it at the time, but I just remember sort of wandering around, and you know how long and lonely it was. As girls get older, their friendships change, and they move away from toy-based pretense games to more sophisticated people and personality-based relationships. Well, some. Girls talk about other girls and boys. Their relationships are subtle and nuanced, and allegiances are forever changing. I think that was talking about neurotypical girls. Girls with ASD struggle increasingly with age to first understand why this change has occurred. They were quite happy as things were, and second, to be able to continue to hold their own in this social arena. And that was reported by Riley Hall, 2012. School break time is the primary location for this new terror, and it happens 3 times a day. This is supposed to be the part of the day that is fun. Among those women questioned, art and English top the list of favourite subjects at school. These are not the typically expected male ASD topics, which usually involve maths and IT, which may add to the difficulty in considering an ASD diagnosis for a literary and creative girl. Many were voracious readers, are most happy when engrossed in a book during the school day. They also enjoy drawing and colouring, perceived as typical female pursuits. Gathering factual or fictional information in a solo world appears to be more enjoyable than gathering social information in the real world for these girls, and their knowledge of chosen subjects can be extensive. I mean, all that, I probably made notes because it just seemed very much speaking to me. Regarding adult diagnosis, the presumption that is that if you have made it to 40 or 50 years of age without a diagnosis and survived, why bother getting one now? Well, I was 63. My personal and professional experience paints a different picture, which is almost universal for both men and women. As one woman puts it, it put many of the difficulties I had with school and friendships into perspective, as well as allowing me to work out why I found some situations very stressful, /tiring, e.g. social occasions, meeting new people, loud environments, etc. In short, it was a massive relief, as I know who I am, how I can expect myself to be, but there's nothing wrong with me, and that the friendship difficulties I had weren't my fault. And that was a woman with autism. And I'm just going to talk about conversation, reporting from the book, conversation, turn-taking, social interaction, and jokes. I still have issues with turn-taking in conversation. If I don't say something, the second I think of it, then it is lost, often forever. So I interrupt a lot and talk over people. I'd say I'm more aware of when I'm interrupting than I used to be, and better at writing myself in when necessary. And that was a quote from a woman, autistic woman. But it's interesting because ADHD say the same thing about the interruptions, and I totally understand that about. I wasn't sure if that was my quote, but I think it was quoted from the book about, turn taking and worrying about losing it forever, because that's something I very much do. The result of these communication differences can be the fact women with autism misunderstand the words of others as well as being misunderstood themselves. Jokes, sarcasm, and a tendency to take things literally can cause confusion, anxiety, and a general feeling of stupidity of not having got it. That is not to say that women with autism do not have a sense of humour, and they may be quick-witted with their own jokes, but the jokes of others may be lost on them at times. I have been told on more than one occasion that I can't have autism because I have a sense of humour and I know how to tell a joke. While this is true, I'm still unable to tell if someone else is joking. I believe pretty much anything I'm told, and yet refuse to believe something that has been said is a joke when I'm told that it is. They're all quotes. Sorry, I didn't do that very well and didn't present it very well, because I couldn't tell what was. I think most of it was quotes, and I interjected with a few of my yes, I agree, I've had that sort of thing. Anyway, this is long enough now, so bye for now.